Hello, and thank you for joining us at Coalesce. My name is Sarah Leone, and I'm a solutions architect here at DBT Labs. I'll be the host of this session. The title of the session is How to Leverage DBT Community as the First and Only Data Hire to Survive, and we'll be joined by Opeyemi Fabi. All chat and conversation is taking place in the Coalesce How to Leverage channel of the DBT Slack. If you're not part of the chat, you have time to join that right now. Visit getdbt.com/community and search for Coalesce How to Leverage when you enter the space. We encourage you to ask other attendees questions, make comments, or react at any point in the channel. After the session, the speaker will be available in the Slack channel to answer your questions. However, we encourage you to ask those questions at any point during the session. Let's get started. Over to you, Opeyemi.
Thanks, Sarah, for the intros. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and super stoked, super excited to be part of the speakers lineup for Coalesce this year. And thanks to the TBT Lab team for organizing such an amazing and insightful event. And most importantly, shout out to the community team and to Amanda for your support towards the DBT community team here in Nigeria. So today I'll be sharing my learning experience working as a solo data team and how I was able to engage the DBT community to survive, basically to move from someone that had zero to no knowledge about DBT analytics engineering to setting up a data infrastructure from scratch for my previous organization. So if you are a solo data team or you have a lean data team, I definitely know you will learn one or two things from this session, and also stick around after the session to ask all the necessary questions you have, which I would happily respond to in the Slack channel. So let's dive right into it. Fun fact, my name is Opeyemi, as I've rightly said. I work as an IT engineer with data culture. Fun fact about me, my nickname is Opiano. Opey is my short name, and I play piano. So if you concatenate Opey and piano, that's Opiano. And I love to take custard a lot for breakfast. And feel free to follow me on Twitter as Opiano1, and also connect with me on LinkedIn as Opeyemi Fabi. So during the course of this presentation, I will be walking you through my data journey story, how I got started in data, as well as my community engagement and community story before I dive into what was it like for me to work as a solo data team in my previous organization. And some of the learning experiences I picked up while working as a solo data team and how I was able to leverage the DBT community. And some of the takeaways, some of the learning points you could also pick up if you are a data team working as a solo data team. So without further ado, I will just dive right into it. So now, just a bit of context. So I have a background in electrical engineering from the University of Ibadan here in Nigeria. And interestingly, so which means I actually transitioned into what I currently do now as a data person. And interestingly, I actually wanted to work as a field engineer in the oil and gas industry because I felt it's actually a very lucrative industry. After completing my internship in an oil and gas industry, earning about $200 per month, which was really, really a lot of money back then for an undergraduate here in Nigeria. But unfortunately, during my final year, I came to a realization that there were little to no job openings in most of the industries here in Nigeria, and I had to pick up a tech skill just to make myself employable. Shout out to my classmates who introduced me to data science, and most importantly, thanks to the democratization of knowledge that are readily available from most of all the massive open online courses which I enrolled to. So 18 months of learning, I was able to go through most of all these courses, and I got my first job as a supply chain planning analyst, where I was basically doing a lot of demand forecasting, doing inventory analysis. And after a couple of months, I joined Deloitte as a data analytics consultant, where I was basically involved in helping clients set up some of the data initiative around audit analytics, revenue assurance, and also involved in implementing and designing data science and machine learning solution. Now, after a couple of years at Deloitte, I joined Carrywise, which is one of the leading fintech here in Nigeria. And majority of what I'll be sharing today for this session will basically be leveraging on what I learned while working at Carrywise. I had as a data scientist, but interestingly, I end up transitioning doing a lot of data analytics engineering. And I currently work, as I rightly said, as Data Culture, which is a data consulting firm based in New York, where we basically help our clients in their journey of becoming a data-driven organization. So I basically do a lot of implementing data infrastructure for clients, recommending best practices for our clients. And so that being said, Now, one thing that has been consistent for me throughout my data journey is my love for community. I'm passionate about community. I love community, and that is why it is very interesting for me that community was basically where I ran to when I was starting with a lot of challenges in my previous organization. But to give you a bit of perspective on my love for community and things I've actually been doing as it relates to community throughout my career journey, I'll just do a bit of sharing some perspective. So I founded a data community here in Nigeria known as the Young Data Professionals. And the whole idea of this community is basically to provide a support system for data professionals, as well as those that are looking forward to transition, who don't necessarily have the guidance that they require. Because when I started out, there was literally no support system as it were. So I was just swimming within the pool of plethora resources that were online. And that's basically why I started this community. And this was doing one of our hangouts with the Nigerian team of Brooklyn data team. I also lead the DBT Meetup Nigeria, where I also drive the awareness of DBT analytics engineering here in Nigeria. And we've had about 3 meetups. This was during our first physical meetup where we have over 100 persons in attendance. So the DBT and analytics engineering space is really growing rapidly in the Nigerian space. And also, I'm also an AWS community builder, where I'm also involved in democratization of knowledge. And very recently, I'm also part of the team that is currently building the largest data community in Africa, because we realized that the data community in Africa is rapidly growing. But one thing that we realized is the fact that we do not have, as it were, a unified body that basically channeled towards bringing all data professionals together. All communities that we have in Africa are basically running in isolation, in silos. But we wanted to build a community where we would have all data community in Africa come together to learn from one another. And interestingly, we held our first maiden edition of the Data Fest Africa last weekend, where we have over about 2,000 participants join the physical event, and all thanks to the DBT Lab team for also sponsoring the event towards making that a success. Well, maybe sometimes later I may decide to go fully into DevRel. But one thing that is interesting, as you can see, is I love community. I'm very passionate about community. And that is why it's not surprising that the community was actually my refuge when I needed to get help to survive in a difficult situation I was in at that point. So now let's now dive into what was it like as a solo data team. What was my experience? Now, I recently just got recruited as a data scientist in, like I said, in one of the leading fintech here in Nigeria, and I was literally excited, looking forward to building all those data science solution, recommendation engine, customer churn prediction. I was looking forward to building all of those fanciful solutions. Had a bit of conversation with the stakeholders, my CEO and my CTO, just to align with some of the expectations that is required of me. Yes, I'm going to be involved as the only data team, attend to ad hoc requests from different stakeholders within the company, build new dashboard and report for specific KPIs, and also get involved in actually building all those data science and machine learning solutions, such as churn analysis and necessary use cases that I needed to build. But now, I actually had an immediate blocker towards achieving those goals. The reality that I came in contact with was that complex queries were taking long time to run, and most of them were even timing out. They were not even displaying at all. Important dashboard that investors needed to see, as well as important dashboard that the business needed to run with, most of the metrics were not displaying. And we had a bit of discrepancies in a lot of metrics calculated for multiple systems. And as a result of these challenges, I had a bit of delay attending to all the Asana ticket tasks. And this definitely led to a bit of dissatisfaction from stakeholders. Now, as a result of these challenges that I faced, we came to a conclusion that we needed to build a data infrastructure. Now, I've never had to build a data infrastructure from scratch. I've always worked at the downstream side of things, querying data from my existing infrastructure, building data science solution from an existing infrastructure from data that is available, but never had to work upstream, making those data available for myself. So I had 2 reactions after we came to the conclusion that I needed to build a data infrastructure. The first reaction was, should I take this as a learning opportunity and take on the challenge, or should I just resign, knowing that I was hired as a data scientist at the wrong time in the company data maturity? Well, I guess you can predict what my conclusion was. So I ended up picking up the learning opportunity, And I was able to move my company from the previous state in their infrastructure to what they have currently, solely leveraging the DBT community. Like I said, I had zero knowledge about DBT, I had zero knowledge about the modern data stack and analytical engineering, but leveraging all the support from the DBT community, I was able to successfully implement the data stack as a solo data team. And what was the outcome of that project? All departments now have access to their dashboard and important metrics, and I was able to empower a self-service culture. The query that was timing out was fixed, and which led to some stakeholders now being happy. Everybody's happy, I'm happy. And most importantly, I got an award for an excellent quality of work. So all thanks to everyone in the DBT community for helping out to making this project a success. So having said that, what were the learning experience I gathered while working as a solo data team? Now, for the sake of those that will be working as a solo data team, or for data team that are very lean, that are very small, what are the learning experience I was able to gather while working as a solo data team? The first thing is don't burn out. Now, because you're working as a solo data team, a lot of responsibility, a lot of things you need to do would definitely fall on your table, which means you have a lot of things that need to be done. As much as possible, you want to be as organized as possible. And there's tendencies to be overwhelmed, there's tendency to feel isolated, and there's tendency to also fall ill. Talking from experience, in the first 2 weeks of working on this project, I actually felt ill. But when I got back, all thanks to advice I got from folks within the community, I was able to manage the whole situation, and I was able to at least manage my stress and not to burn out again. So what are the things you need to take note of if you don't want to burn out? The first thing is you want to try and sleep well and take a break if needed. Yes, you have a lot of requests. You have a lot of work you need to do. You would be juggling between rebuilding the new infrastructure if your company probably don't have an infrastructure, as well as attending to ad hoc requests. So you would need to, as much as possible, take break once in a while. And also, an interesting thing is you also want to be conservative with the proposed roadmap that you have. Now, because you will be setting up a data infrastructure, if you are the first data hire, you would have a bit of roadmap. And as much as possible, you want to be conservative about it. If you've estimated that your project is probably going to take 3-4 days, you probably want to add 1 or 2 days extra just to be able to factor in unforeseen circumstances that may arise so that you don't overwhelm yourself with unnecessary pressure. So the next thing also, once you have your roadmap, you also want to have like a weekly and monthly target based on from the infrastructure work you're doing based on the roadmap. And also, I just want to call out, it's okay to miss some requests, some deadlines, because you would have a lot of requests, and it's okay to miss some of them, which is why you would need to learn how to prioritize ad hoc requests. I'll be sharing out somewhere along my slide how to prioritize based on the prioritization framework I leverage to be able to prioritize some of the requests I get when it was getting overwhelming. So you get a lot of them, so you need to learn how to prioritize those ad hoc requests. Now, the next thing you want to take note of as a solo data team or a data team that is small is you want to turn over quick wins, which means you want to have what is called an agile mindset. So don't run away, don't stay away for a few weeks without coming back with any updates. So which is important, you want to collaborate constantly with stakeholders. You want to have buy-ins on whatever you're doing. So you want to start small and iterate, so you don't have to wait till you have a large milestone before you update the stakeholders. So let them be in the loop of everything you are doing. And also, most importantly, you also want to focus on meeting the immediate value of the business and iterate. Now, during while working as a solo data team, one of the major value they needed was the investor dashboard that investor needed to have access to wasn't displaying at all. So I knew that was like the most important dashboard I needed to fix before any other thing. So you want to focus on meeting the immediate value and also iterate, and you'll be able to achieve this when you constantly engage with stakeholders to also understand what are their immediate needs and things that need to be done. And also, you need to actively educate and constantly communicate the whys to the stakeholder. Now, there might be instances you have some stakeholder that may not have insight into what you are doing, that may not have insight into the volume of work that needs to be done, which is why you need to do a lot of communication to be able to achieve the buy-in of what you need to do. And in instances where you don't go with whatever suggestion they are suggesting, you should be able to provide the why. An example, during the period where I was building a data infrastructure, I remember my CTO asking me, Oh, okay, when are we going to start building all those recommendation engine? When are we going to start building all those customer segmentation? So how to educate my CTO then? Yes, these are things we could do according to a hierarchy of needs. These are things we could do once we have the right infrastructure in place. So yes, we start doing those advanced analytics the moment we have the infrastructure that will power that. And I was able to at least not put myself under unnecessary pressure to be able to manage the stakeholder. And lastly, you also don't want to compromise quality in the bid to meet deadlines. Like I mentioned, you have loads of requests, and in order to balance things, there may be tendency to probably want to jeopardize quality. So you don't want to jeopardize quality because you want to meet up with deadlines and also manage your pressure. Now, the third learning point is you need to learn how to manage ad hoc requests. Now, you will get tons of requests from all the different stakeholders, and every one of them will attach importance to all their requests. So that means the onus is on you to know how to prioritize all the requests that you'll be getting in order not to overwhelm yourself. And how do you do that? That means you want to have a separate time for infrastructure work as well as data analytics work. Now, because you are a solo data team, that means you'll be juggling between infrastructure work as well as attending to requests. So, and that basically means if you don't manage things well, you will get overwhelmed, and which will definitely lead to you burning out. So what you would do, which is what I did, thanks to advice from folks within the community, was basically to create a time and say, okay, fine, a certain period of the week, probably on Mondays, on Wednesdays, on Fridays, I'm going to be attending to all ad hoc requests. I'll ask everybody to submit their ticket on Asana, and I'm going to work on it. And I know that on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, I'm solely going to be doing infrastructure work. And I have to communicate all of this to stakeholders. And that's why I talk about constantly communicating with stakeholders, making them aware of what you are doing constantly. So I was able to do that. So by managing that, so I know that I don't have to be doing a bit of context switching when I'm doing infrastructure work. There's an ad hoc request I need to attend to. And while attending to that, I need to go back to infrastructure, which can also get overwhelming. So by creating a separate time for infrastructure work as well as ad hoc requests, I was able to manage all of those work. Now, the next thing is not to fall into the temptation to rush things in a response to the volume of requests you'll get. Now, because you get loads of requests, if you rush to attend to all of them, you might be prone to mistakes. And the more you make mistakes, the more you lose your credibility as a data team in that company. And you don't want to lose your credibility. So how do you do that? How do you succeed on the role as a solid data team? So that means the first thing is you want to be able to consistently and accurately deliver data accurately. So which means you want to ensure that you understand the source system you are working with, and you also want to have a good understanding of the business logic, and you also want to consult if you're not sure, because if you churn out wrong data, it's going to affect the business, and wrong data basically means you're not doing anything, right? So we want to take your time to ensure that you are actually churning out the right kind of data. And that means you need to learn to slow down, even in the face of large amounts of pressure and urgency. So ensure you have understanding of the source system, ensure you understand the business logic, and consult if you need to, so you don't end up just dabbling on whatever requests are coming without having to take that pause and reflect and think through the task you need to work on. The next thing is ability to handle unreasonable volume of requests. Now, like I mentioned, honestly, even if you are not the only data team, the volume of data requests you will get at every point in time will always be much more than the capacity of the analyst in the team. So which is why you want to learn how to prioritize. And also, you also want to learn how to be diplomatic to reject some requests as it were. So how do you learn to prioritize? Now, I was able to lean on some prioritization techniques that was built by Sam Hu. And he basically said that for every request that comes, you want to be able to categorize them into the bucket of what's the value of the request, as well as what is the work that is required. So for every request, for everything that you need to do, you need to be able to ask yourself the question, what's going to be the business impact of this request? And when I do this particular thing, how long will it take me to achieve this thing? Do I have the capacity in the immediate to do them? And does this request really have any immediate value on the business? If yes, you'll be able to know how to categorize all of those requests, all the necessary tasks you need to do into their different buckets. So from my experience, most bug fixes, because generally for anyone to actually fix a particular bug, that means it probably is impacting the particular metrics. For bug fixes, it probably will take 1 or 2 days, depending on how critical the bug is. So bug fixes are a bit critical, and they don't require a bit of high volume of work as it were. So you probably treat them as high impacting, and they're also critical, and they require low amount of work. For a new request, probably a new report that you need to build for a particular department, you probably want to weigh it. Definitely it's high impact. You want to weigh the chances of success if you have the capacity to do them. And generally, tasks that are pushed into low request, low value are those that probably don't even have a clear goal of what the request needs to achieve for the business. So once you learn how to categorize all the different requests that you get, you'll be able to know how to prioritize those you need to attend to in the immediate and those you need to push back, and those you probably need to tell them you probably won't have all the time to attend to them. The next thing as a learning experience is you want to empower what is called the citizen analyst in the organization. There are folks in the organization, even though they are not officially data analysts, but they'll be in different departments that are hungry about data. They always reach out to you to get stuff done. They always reach out to you to ask questions relating to the data. These are people that are data hungry. So you want to identify those citizen analysts within the organization. And what do you want to do? You want to empower them, because the more you empower them, that means it will reduce the number of requests you get, because these people will be able to serve their department and also make the work easy for you. So you want to constantly engage them to help you in future scoping of all necessary data initiatives within the department. And you also want to get feedback from them, because these people are hungry about the data and how the data influence what they do. So you want to identify those citizen analysts or data champion in the different departments that you are currently servicing. And lastly, you want to explore the community. Now, the interesting thing is whatever challenge you are trying to do, whatever task you are trying to work on, someone within the community has worked on similar stuff. So even though you are the solid data team, you could leverage on the 1,000 experience, 1,000 ideas within the data community. Fun fact, I don't think I've ever had any data challenge that I've never gotten any response from the DBT community, whether directly or indirectly. Directly, that is me asking the question myself. Indirectly, probably reading conversation, following some conversation, different people's question in the community. I'm able to get answers to all the questions I need to solve whatever problem I needed to do. So you don't have to feel alone. So leverage the DBT community to get all the support you need. Fun fact, I'm currently on over 50 plus channels on the DBT community, and I actively follow them. Yes, it can be overwhelming. I probably want you to join over 50, but as much as possible, I try to create time for this channel. During the weekend, I try to just read up, follow conversation, try to learn from thought leaders, try to understand how people approach different problems. And that way, you're also able to get ideas from different persons within the community to understand, in case you come in contact with a similar problem, you're able to know how to attack such related problem. So one thing to note is, feel free to ask questions within the community. No question is dumb. And it's an all-inclusive community, so you don't feel like a stranger. And like I rightly mentioned, it's an avenue for you to learn from every members of the community. Now, the next question you probably want to ask is, how do I engage with the community? Oh, yes, I've explained how that the community help you a lot, but how do you now engage in the community? The first thing which is important is you want to adhere to all the rules in the community. The fact that you need help from people, the fact that you want people to help you within the community does not mean you shouldn't respect people. So which is why read all the rules that are in the community. You don't want to spam different channels because you need help, right? So you want to read all the rules. You don't want to also explicitly reach out to anybody in the community unless they actually give you the permission to. So the first thing is you want to ensure that you adhere to all the rules in any community you are in, but most importantly, the DBT community. The second thing which is important is you want to join a meetup group. Now, a meetup group basically gives you the ability, the opportunity to network, build relationship with other analytics engineers and other professionals in your local city. Now, in case you don't have any local channel in your country, you can reach out to set up one, and that's basically what I did when I started. There was literally no community in Nigeria, and I reached out to the DBT community team. And like I said, they are amazing. They are very supportive. I was able to host one now, which is currently driving a lot of awareness on analytics engineering and DBT here in Nigeria. So you want to join the meetup community because it gives you a bit of access to more close group. In case you don't feel free to want to drop a chat in the Slack channel through these meetup groups. You definitely can ask questions because it's a closed one. You can ask questions from experts in any of the sessions. And interestingly, DBT also holds some frequent sessions like the DBT 101, DBT Live Expert Series, which you can also freely ask any question you are facing as a solo data team. And also, most importantly, community also, the DBT meetup community for your local also give you the opportunity to also contribute towards the awareness of how amazing the tool like DBT is. And the last thing is you need to learn how to ask the right question. Now, the fact that, yes, the community is there to help you, you also need to learn how to ask the right question. Now, one way I leverage the community is basically, as an instance, if I have to ask, if I have a challenge relating to an example, say snapshot, I probably have a question relating to snapshot. Before I go ahead to ask that question, I do a search on the entire DBT channel to see if to see all the conversation relating to snapshot. So I read up all the conversation just to have an understanding of whatever conversation that have been discussed relating to that subject matter, just to give me a bit of understanding whether the question I want to ask, someone have already asked it before and there's already an existing answer, basically. And if not, it also give me a bit of context to know how to properly structure the question I want to ask. So you want to put a bit of effort to your question so that you don't just want to throw a vague question that people don't ask. The more effort you put to your question, the chances of you getting responses to that question. So provide more context when asking question. And lastly, every channel has its uniqueness. If you have questions relating to, say, reverse ETL, definitely you want to probably drop the question in the hashtag operational analytics. So every channel have their uniqueness. So if you're able to target your question to the right channel, I can guarantee you will get all the support, all the responses you need to whatever challenge you are facing. So in summary, as I begin to round up, what are the takeaways, like I said, on how to leverage the DBT community as a solo data team? The first thing is you want to learn how to manage stress and not burnout. You want to leverage a consistent iteration with stakeholders. So that means you want to have an agile mindset. You also want to learn how to manage ad hoc requests, which is leveraging the prioritization framework I talked about, categorizing requests into whether they are important, whether they are high value in terms of the impact of the business, categorizing it based on the amount of work that is required, whether you have the capacity to do it in immediate or not. And you also want to identify the citizen analysts in the organization in various teams. And you don't have to do it alone. You want to leverage the DBT community, which will be your data team that you never had in your organization. Now, how do you do that? You want to join a meetup group. You want to adhere to whatever rules in the community. And lastly, you want to learn to ask the question rightly. So thank you, everyone, for listening. I'll be at the Slack channel to respond to different questions.
Thank you so much for that great presentation. If you'd like to join the Q&A with our speaker, stay in the Coalesce How to Leverage channel on the DBT Community Slack to submit your questions and comments. If not, the next session is titled Sequel the Video Game and will start at 11:15 a.m. CDT or 5:15 Irish Standard Time. Hope to see you there.